Live from the Green Room Studios, from the spacious property of Bates Nursery and Garden Center, 3810 Whites Creek Pike, it's the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates.
Hey! Welcome in, everybody.
Welcome into you.
Shake off that turkey hangover. It's time to get up because you have to have the Christmas tree completely up by 3:30 today.
Well,
Yes.
certainly. Yeah.
Dang it. Because it's going to be rainy anyway, so you might as well be out there.
Later in the day, probably after 3:30. But anyway, welcome in.
Yes, welcome
good
to
to
you.
see you. Good to see everyone.
Uh-huh.
You are tuned in to the At Home Show
Yes.
with Josh Cary,
David Bates.
and
A cast of thousands.
specifically, there's a couple of others here in
Yes.
studio we want to make mention of. Caroline Gant, Austin Lowen.
Yep.
Welcome in, guys.
Yep,
Good
yep,
morning
yep,
to
yep.
you.
Good morning.
And we also, although I believe our operator today is going to be very discreet about which angles.
Uh-huh.
Rachel Chapman is, there we are.
Yay,
Good morning.
Rachel.
The Rachel Cam could come to head.
Yes, so we're really appreciative of Rachel being here this morning and giving Tyler the week off, because if it wasn't for that, Tyler would have to be here. He's contractually bound
Yes.
to always be here, but actually it's not the case. Let's go on to the weather. How about that?
Okay.
And of course today is Saturday, and it is the 26th of November.
Yes.
Another month almost in the books. And we're going to have some generally overcast conditions today. Late afternoon showers and maybe a half inch. Who knows how much. But 65 degrees for the high. So it will be mild today. Tomorrow is Sunday, 56 for the high, and perhaps a few early morning showers.
Oh, lovely.
On Monday, 57 with cloud and sun mix. Afternoon rains again on Tuesday, late afternoon, early Wednesday morning, 66, 56 on Wednesday. And then we chill down a bit on Thursday, 45, 57 on Friday as we're rolling into December. Hard to believe it's here already. And I'll give you a little quick view of the radar and let you know that you see this moisture that's over here to the southwest of us, and that is generally moving north. So consequently, we will, a lot of this is going to miss us. We're going to catch some that will ultimately impact us here in Middle Tennessee, but it will not be anything like a deluge like this appears to be. Generally,
Yes, Dallas, it needs to be washed anyway.
well, perhaps.
Yes.
But as so, looks like we're going to have a pretty dry day throughout the day here at the Bates Nursery Weather Station. It's now up to 34 degrees, so we will warm up a bit today and invite you to come out and see us and check out what all we got going on out here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. We're going to start this day off by talking what we used to talk about.
Which is about anything we want to talk about.
Sure. You
Yeah.
know, but we cleverly disguise it as landscaping and home improvement.
Well, you forgot to mention the fog, David. It is a little Kermity out there in places.
It is a little Kermit the Fog. So, without further ado or poor puns.
It is patchy and it's dense, even though that's mean to talk about fog in a dense term. So.
Well, yeah, that's don't speak of it in derogatory fashion, Josh.
But
that's how unkind.
The
of you.
low-lying areas near the creeks and rivers in Middle
Now, there
Tennessee.
you go again, low lying.
Yeah, low-lying.
I mean, you're just end you'll go to speak disparagingly of the climatic conditions.
Fog.
Oh, anyway. So good morning, Caroline.
I didn't say
good
fog
morning.
you.
Good morning, Austin.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome in, guys, and of course we've got an action-packed show today because I know we have a plethora of questions out there in the queue, or at least several.
We do.
Somewhere between several and a plethora. So, are there issues that you want to discuss before we get into those questions? I know there probably is.
I want to talk about what's on the table over there. My goodness gracious.
And last week we alluded to the fact that you guys did actually I didn't say much about it. We had red poinsettias in last week, and we was referenced that we had some pink ones and some another cultivar known as glitter, which actually does not have glitter on it. It has speckled bracts. They are red bracts with white or cream colored
spots. They're spectacular. I had to go over and check them out in Caroline's
So maybe
area
next week we'll see one of those. What you got over there?
Well, we do have pink poinsettias in today, which we talked about last week. So right on the ends, you can see them. Austin, you want to display those? There we go. Oh, there it is. And in the middle, we've got kind of an array of cyclamen, which we have gotten in terracotta pots. So they're a great gift if you're looking for something to bring to a party, a hostess gift. Let me pick up one of these small ones. Already in the pot, ready to go. So you don't even have to worry about picking out a pot or putting it in something. And terracotta goes with pretty much any kind of decor that anyone has in their home. So, yep. And then what do we have over here that looks kind of like reindeer antlers?
They are. They're just reindeer antlers in a pot.
That's all they are.
No, I'm just playing. It's a sumac. Tiger Eyes sumac is the name of this. And I don't know if we can get it's hard to see it, but it's a very golden foliage plant. And it's got fuzzy stems over the wintertime. And they really do. Ben, one of our favorites here, Ben, likes to display. And I usually make fun of Ben a little bit with his displays because he picks some random plants, which is why we love him. He's a very random guy. But he brought up these sumac because they look like reindeer antlers. And we put them up in our holiday display, and it really, really looks nice. So cool plant to grow. Josh, I know you were talking to her before the show. You grew one of these years ago.
I had one it was right beside the pool for about 7 or 8 years.
What happened?
It went to the great staghorn sumac graveyard.
Oh,
It just and one year it was there, and then next year it was gone. But I mean, for its lifetime, and it got we were probably about 7 or 8 feet tall when it was fully mature, just absolutely gorgeous with beautiful fall color too.
Yeah, they do.
I probably made just a small mistake in placing it next to the pool
Because it stayed too wet.
It could have gotten a little chlorinated, when in the fall of the year it tended to lose its leaves a little earlier than everything else, but they get down in the pool, and but it was beautiful tree.
It's a cool plant. It really is. So there you go.
That's easy for me to say.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say too, when it comes to cyclamen, me and Caroline were talking about this before the show. If someone gifted me a cyclamen, I would be upset with it.
you would kill it. You did get gifted a cyclamen from me and my my plant spouse Vanessa, and you killed it in probably 3 days.
Not 3 days, but honestly, I get annoyed by them. Cyclamen just lays over if it's dry. It's just like,
If you're bad at watering, cyclamen may not
for
be
you.
the best plant for you.
Not for you. And I'm a lazy waterer, I tell you that. So cyclamen's not in my house.
Are they
It's
thirsty?
beautiful.
Is that what you're saying, or too much or too little? Or
Too much or too little? Certainly. I mean,
Yes.
You don't want to go too much, but if you go too little, it'll tell you. It's loud about being dramatic.
It's what you call the classic Goldilocks plant. He wants everything to be just right.
now the beautiful.
I like that.
You've got the white. You showed the white one, but there's pink ones back there too.
We got 2 shades of pink back here.
Okay.
And they're huge. The flowers on cyclamen now are humongous. It's amazing. And they free flower really throughout the season, kind of after after they get done flowering, you cut off all those stems and you'll see a reflush fairly quickly. So it's definitely a good houseplant for flowers inside your home, but they definitely take some attention.
They take a little bit of attention.
A lot of it.
So if your name is Austin and you're not good at watering, you don't get one.
cyclamens, that used to be in Fresca, right? Didn't they have to take that out?
No, that's cyclamates. Cyclamates,
okay.
Josh. Most of the rest of only you and I even understand that reference. Everyone else here is much too young.
Yeah, it went right over my head.
Yeah, I
It
don't
was
know
a
that.
sweetener that they had in things that
It used to be in Kool-Aid also.
yeah.
Wait, what is it called?
cyclamates.
Huh.
And it was
Interesting.
proven not to be exactly healthy for you.
I think that's kind of true with anything you do too much of. But anyway, so let's go on down to the question part of our program and see what that brings us.
All right. First question of the morning. Suggestions for a small, slow-growing conifer for a small yard. Full sun.
Small, slow-growing conifer. There's a bunch of slow-growing conifers. There's one dwarf.
What's your favorite?
You go?
Mugo's pretty slow, although a little quicker than you'd think, and they also get bigger than you think they would. There are true dwarf varieties now. There's some really true dwarf cryptomeria out there that are pretty cool, like really tight growing. One called like Dragon Prince, Dragon Warrior. There's all these fierce names for this little cryptomeria, but it's supposed to be very tight and small and not get all that large. One true dwarf and extremely slow growing is a true dwarf Hinoki cypress. It literally looks like a little green round rock. It just sits atop the foliage. It's awesome. Really, really good looking. Avoid a wet spot. They are so close to the ground that it makes me a little bit nervous planting those. I like them in pots a little bit
And
better.
you don't want to see Austin when he's nervous.
No, you don't. You do not.
But that plant is really cool. It's the deepest shade of green I think that we have out here. Really, really cool plant. Extremely slow growing, and it stays very small. So those are just 3 options, but there's more than that. We were looking at a cool little pine yesterday. What was it called? Aoi. It's like Aoi.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
really weird name. It's a really weird one. It's Japanese
No,
pine.
we didn't bring it in.
But it's a slow little grower. Cool for like a rock garden kind of centerpiece and build around type plant. So.
And if you're looking for something that's got maybe a little more brightness to it, a blue spruce would be a good choice. There's also I don't know if we even have any of the Montgomery, which is more of a flat growing type of blue spruce. Now again, dwarf and conifer are relative terms to each other because given enough time, pretty much all of these can get to be pretty good size. So you have to really stay at them to keep them within bounds and make allowances for them to get larger. They'll stay small for quite a while, but something happens, I'd say about between years 5 and 7 where they just explode.
Puberty.
Agreed.
Could be puberty.
Yeah.
It could be
It's probably it, Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I do have
Get a
in-house
spurt,
plants and out on the lot. I know we get this question a lot where people come in and they're surprised that things are going to get larger than they are when they buy them. So that's something to keep in mind. If you pick out a very small 1 gallon conifer or tree or whatever house plant, it is going to grow and get bigger unless it has died.
And I don't know, do we have any Jean's Dilly dwarf Alberta spruce, a little true dwarf?
No.
And that's another really good if you're looking for an upright, and it really does stay pretty small.
Yeah, they do.
And that will look like, if you see the name, it'll look like Jean, Jean, but it is in fact
Jean.
Jean's Dilly. So
Yeah, and I'll say dwarf Alberta spruce is still probably one of the most common Christmas trees to bring in your home to decorate with. We've got a number of them right now. And like David said, I mean, they actually do stay small, mainly because they grow so slow. They just push once in the early spring with their new growth,
That's
like
it.
an inch or two. And then that's what you get for the season. So, but yeah, if you want something really small that's an upright habit, then dwarf Alberta is the way to go.
All right.
Know your source on those though, because we bought some dwarf Albertas, and they didn't turn out to be dwarf either. They were quite gigantic.
They could have just
Yeah.
been the white spruce from which they originally came from. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not dwarf at all. They get quite large.
And they can revert. I've seen them revert a lot, and we
They
can go
have.
into all that or whatever. But that's whenever a dwarf Alberta spruce takes a stem and it starts to go way up on you, and it turns into like a little 2-tone tree. Because the top part is large and the bottom part is still tight, like Alberta spruce is. So
Sounds
that
kinda
can
cool.
happen.
It's a
It is.
strange
Wow.
look.
It's very strange.
Not everybody can pull it off.
Not everybody can pull them. No.
Okay.
All right, we have a question about a dwarf mugo pine now. So good segue. Is it normal for my dwarf mugo pine to shed needles in the inside or on the inside?
It is.
Mine does.
There it is.
Everybody's does. Every
Yeah.
pine does. That's how we get pine needles. We
Yep.
talked about this for the past couple weeks. If we didn't have shedding on pine trees, we wouldn't be able to scatter pine straw around our beds and such. So yes, all pines shed, and they all do it from the interior. Mugo pines certainly do it. You don't see it all that much with mugo because it is such a tight grower. It's really evident with like large growing pine trees because you can see all the way through them pretty much. Mugo pines stay super tight, so you can only see the green foliage. But if you peel back that green foliage this time of year, you will certainly see yellow foliage that you can just rake out of there and clean up if you want.
Can you imagine what a bale of Mugo pine straw needles would cost?
Oh, God.
Pretty
Yeah.
expensive.
Oh, yeah.
So Ben, who we've already talked about this morning, he and I were talking about pine shedding, and he took a leaf blower to some to get all the dead needles out, which I thought was a fantastic idea.
Oh, it's way quicker.
He's so smart, that Ben.
Old Ben.
It's also a lot easier if the foliage is dry.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
dislodge a lot easier. If you do it when they're wet,
They're so much fun to get out of the gutters after they've been in there about 4 or 5
Yeah.
weeks. Oh, just that nice sliminess that they
Ew.
develop.
absolutely.
I need to clean my gutters now that you say that.
Oh,
All right, suggestions on bringing home a new fiddle leaf fig. Ooh, that's a good question right there.
Austin's got a video about transplanting one that's about 60,000 views in. So you might
That face of his.
You might give that a watch. So what do you think, Caroline?
I think when you bring it home, don't do anything with it. So have your spot picked out. They need to get plenty of sunlight. It doesn't have to be a ton of direct light, but it does have to be a decent amount of sun. I would suggest like a southwest facing window close to it would be best. Leave it in the nursery pot, especially this time of year. You're not going to want to repot it. I leave my fiddle leaf figs in their nursery pots pretty much all the time. When I go to pot them up, I'll keep them in a nursery pot and I just drop it in a decorative pot. But they don't like their roots to be disturbed, and they do take a long time to acclimate to that and to acclimate to their new environment. So you don't want to shock them too much. So have your spot picked. You don't want to have it near a draft, near a door, near a vent. Put it in that spot. Only water it when it's completely dry. Make sure it's not sitting in water. And then next planting season, so spring, summer, if you do want to repot it, that would be the best time to go ahead and do it. But do know that you're probably going to lose some leaves. It's not dying, it's just acclimating, and they do take a decent amount of time to do so. So, yeah.
Fiddle leaf fig.
They're great plants. Austin and I talk about them a lot. I mean, we all do. I feel like that's one of the hottest house plants to discuss, and really
Probably has been for a decade now.
You know, if that plant had been developed somewhere in a more maybe cultured climate, they might have called it a violin leaf
yes.
fig.
Oh, yeah.
Because, it was, obviously it was a Appalachia derived name, I'm guessing.
I mean, Stradivarius didn't do it?
No, I'm thinking not.
Oh, okay.
But there are lots of other ficus out there that I like better, that I find to be easier. The Altisima ficus, it's got a variegated leaf, and it doesn't seem to be quite as problematic as the fiddle leaf. That's the one that's going to give people most trouble. But they can be really easy. I say that those thrive on neglect. So don't
do.
even look at it. Put it in a room where nobody goes, and it's going to just go wild and be really happy. But yeah, find that spot and leave it there. All right, how do I care for my living Christmas tree? It's that time of year.
Whoa.
Proper vocabulary there
There's
as well.
a lot.
yes.
Yeah, and the main thing to let's talk just briefly about the terminology. A living Christmas tree is one that actually is in a container grown or has the root ball on it that you would take in the house for a short period of time, and then you would take it out and plant it afterwards. And now the great thing about a living Christmas tree is it's just that you can get a dual use out of it. They are it's a little challenging because most people are not willing to go through the differences that have to occur. Number one, you really should only have it in the house about 7 to 10 days
Max,
total.
yeah.
And if you're going to try to extend that time, you need to be able to put it in a room where you can turn the heat down low, close the vents off, do everything you can to keep the temperature as cool as it is in here in the studio this morning. And it's always chilly in here this time of year. And water it with ice cubes. And if doing that helps to lower the soil temperature and keep that plant dormant. The big issue that you can get into with any kind of a conifer you've brought inside is if you have it inside for weeks and you're just watering it, it's going to think springtime is rolling around. Then you're going to go from these 78-degree temperatures, or however warm it is in your house, to in the 20s outdoors. And even conifers, which are very adept at dealing with cold weather, don't like that abrupt of a change.
So transition after you get done, take the tinsel
You
off.
need to be able to do that. Go to the garage with it, or maybe in your basement, to give it another week or 10 days to adapt back to cooler conditions. One of the things that I think is the most important is to dig your hole before you get the plant.
It's a good reindeer trap, too.
Well,
with Santa Claus.
you get that dug, and that way that if the conditions are not wonderful after the season's over with,
Yeah.
you'll be able to go ahead and plant anyway, because sometimes it's wet or it's frozen or whatever, so you can do that. And the main thing to keep in mind, Josh, if you're going to have success in planting a living Christmas tree,
What do you use, David
well,
Bates?
I would recommend using Earth Mix garden products.
So would I.
Yeah, and Earth Mix Landscape in particular is a great product for using anytime you're planting pretty much any landscape item. And let's face it, a living Christmas tree is one of those
Be a nice investment, so you might as well protect it with some earth mix.
Absolutely. So, and of course, Caroline in her world, if you were going to be talking with regard to indoor plants, Proganics I is certainly the way to go. The great thing about all of the Earth Mix line of products is, number one, they're 100% organic. There is no peat in any of the products whatsoever. It's
No Paul, no John, no Ringo.
It's coconut core is what it is, Josh.
Okay.
And because of that, you don't get fungus
Wrong brand.
gnats, and it's a much more environmentally friendly product. So we invite you to check out Earth Mix Garden Products. They're all over Middle Tennessee and Kentucky. Go to earthmix.net and click on the Find Earth Mix tab. And once you click on that, you'll see that all the locations will come up. There we go. We'll just click over there.
Maybe get you a new pointer. Maybe we'll get one with a red glove on it.
I don't think. Anyway, this is just you can go in as tight as you want to look at all the locations all over Kentucky. They're even up into southern.
Noah's?
Yep. On up. So you can check all those out over at earthmix.net. And remember this, success in gardening begins at the ground level when you use Earth Mix garden products. And we appreciate you giving us a moment to talk about that and helping you have success in your garden.
Got to do it.
It takes the guesswork out of it. It is a difference maker.
What a great stocking stuffer. I mean,
It may be a little bulky.
no, I mean, that makes a statement, David.
It would make a statement.
pallet
I'm
of
not, well, outside the door.
well-
Maybe under. I hate to have to bring all that in and put it on the hearth.
Well,
Yeah.
That's just me.
Oh, my goodness. We have a question from Miriam, MRP Mims, on the Facebook page,
Hello,
guys.
Miriam.
Good morning, Miriam.
She wants to know, how do you plant a lasagna bulb pot? Well,
right.
first thing you got to do is you got to find the bulbs to grow lasagna, I would think, wouldn't you?
They're tricky to
what
find.
Miriam's talking about.
Macaroni bulbs?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's commonly used, this method, obviously, hence lasagna, there's layers of material, typically organic material. And I've only known to really use this method with mainly potatoes. We did it in college once with potatoes, and we started with, well, it was obviously soil at first because we just used the earth. And then we used like newspaper, wheat straw, and composted material. And we kept it super light. And we just added layer upon layer of that. I think it was about 5 layers of that, switching it up every time you went up. And then we put our potatoes right into that, with the top layer being like compost with wheat straw on top of that.
I don't know. I don't know Miriam, but very well. But I think she's probably thinking more of a decorative type thing. with maybe daffodils or tulips.
Yeah, and I mean,
Same
potatoes are
principles.
the same. Yeah, I mean, they're both kind of bulbous type plants, you know.
Okay.
So I mean, they both do the same things when you drop them in. So bulbs would be no different, but it's getting your layers. And like I said, we use newspaper, and I think I want to say we use some cardboard.
I've done it with cardboard before.
Yeah, and you just kind of make a really loose, soil medium, and you drop your stuff in there, and as the season goes on, it just kind of slowly breaks down, but it stays loose. It was the easiest potato picking I have ever picked ever. I mean, you could literally just reach your hand right in there and just pretty much pull out everything. So that was a good way to do it. That's a really good question, Miriam. That's one. I haven't thought about that in probably 12 years. But
I haven't done it in
that.
probably like 8 years or 10.
Yeah, well, either way,
been a long
it's something fun to try. Miriam, you're always trying to do some new stuff with gardening, so give it a go. But come out and get some compost from us. That'll help. Get some wheat straw to break down, to get some funny little microbes in there and make things happen. And give it a shot. I mean, I think your bulbs would enjoy it. So we're starting to run low on bulbs, so you need to come out and get you some there, Miriam.
Yeah, we're pretty much out of pansies altogether.
Out of
Oh, yeah.
pansies.
Mhm.
No more pansies. By the
Sad.
way, y'all, my pansies are money this year. Money.
Mine look amazing.
But you know why
Yours
they
look better.
are? Because you got them out at the proper time of
Yep.
year.
I did.
And the mistake a lot of folks make is really waiting too late. They wait until their summer annuals start looking badly, or they get killed by the first frost or freeze, and that's really not good. It's hard to do. The other second thing that's really hard to do is to pull up your pansies in
the spring.
In the springtime. So that's the way that works.
But yeah, they're looking good this year. Having a good pansy season so far. And before we move on, I wanted to go back to the Christmas tree thing for just a second. You know what I think people ought to do? Way more than what they do.
What?
Buy a cut Christmas tree for inside your home and buy a living one for the front porch. And
That's
do
what
it
I did.
upright on the front porch. Get your lights out there and decorate a beautiful tree out front. You don't have to worry about that inside shock at all. It stays outside, stays chilly like we want it to.
Yep.
And then you can just take it right out to the yard and plant it after Christmas is over.
Absolutely.
And you don't even have to do it really quickly after Christmas
Even
is
the
over.
back patio is not a bad spot.
Not a bad spot.
If you're entertaining this time of year, just keep it away from the fire pit.
Yes.
But it's a great thing to do, and you, as you really just covered well, you don't have to worry about how long it's decorated or up. It can stay there throughout the entire season. So, and if you've ever wrestled one of these big ball and
It's
burlap
not
plants,
fun.
They're tough.
They're heavy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've helped load them, and that wasn't fun. I can't imagine trying to get it inside my house.
We sold one yesterday to a cute little family that was out here, little Eastern White Pine. We threw it up in the truck. I had Shannon help me. He wasn't much help. But,
I bet he's watching right now, too.
but no, it was cool. It was a good Christmas tree season's happening. So
It's here.
Yep, we've got them.
All right, speaking of Christmas, is the care for a Christmas cactus the same as any other cactus? No, it is not. So a Christmas cactus is not a true cactus.
Cactus.
Zygo cactus, correct, which means it doesn't like full sun. It doesn't really like any direct sunlight. If it does get a lot of sun, it'll let you know it's getting too much sun by stressing, and then the stem of the plant is going to turn red, which looks kind of cool. Mine looks like that right now, and I do like the look. My plant's perfectly healthy. It just got a little bit sunburnt. It will lose that red eventually once you bring it out of that full sun. And then the watering requirements for it, completely different than your standard cactus. It likes to stay fairly moist, so it doesn't need to dry out completely between waterings. Although Austin let his dry out for quite a while.
Months.
It didn't die, but it looked really, 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 really sad.
Hey, it's a little bit perky now, though. I gave it some water. I was kind of surprised.
Amazing.
I know. Can you believe that? I mean, I watched it for 2 months and didn't want it. I just saw it, and I was like, I'm just going to let you be. But I gave it some water here recently. It's perked up a little bit. It's still not great. I let mine get a little bit sunny, too, so it's kind of reddish. You know, there's other plants that do that. Aloe comes to mind.
Aloe turns brown. Yeah, it's not
Aloe.
pretty, but it's not dead. But it will take like almost 2 months for it to return to being green.
There's so much stored moisture in the foliage itself that it can really go quite a long time.
A long time. But
Jade also does that.
yeah,
Jade
Jade does
will turn
that.
color in full
A lot of
sun.
Ripsalis does that. It's pretty cool. And again, it's the way they let you know it's a little too much sun. But with mine, I put it on my front porch spring and summer, where it gets just indirect light throughout the day. It's not getting any direct sunlight. And then when I bring it inside, I put it in more of a shady spot, and that forces the bloom. So right now, mine is in full bloom. I mean, a little bit before Christmas, but totally fine. I don't really care when it blooms as long as it does.
Yes.
But it looks gorgeous. So moving it from outside to inside, it didn't get as much light. The temperature changed, and it forced that plant to go into full bloom, and it's gorgeous right now. Is yours blooming?
No, I did notice a little bud yesterday. I looked at it.
Just one?
Just one so far. It was so stressed. So bad. It's good. It's okay. We all get stressed, okay? We can bounce back. We can recover.
That is true.
We
It'll
all
bounce
deal with
back.
stress in different ways.
That's right.
Maybe yours will bloom around Christmas.
Maybe.
We'll see. You'll have to keep us updated.
Yeah.
All right, bought a new build. There are hollies planted almost against the house. Should I remove them?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
not
there's
a
your
holly guy.
answer.
Yep.
You know, new builds are always, after a new build's done, the contractor has to landscape it. That's just part of it. So we deal with that all the time. I mean, 10 times a week we might deal with something like that of people installing plants around homes. Well, what do the contractors want to do? They want to go with the cheap stuff because they want to make their money.
Two
I get it.
Nandinas and a silver maple.
Exactly.
baby.
They'll put some hollies in the back and a couple Nandinas out front, and that's because they're cheap. But big hollies should not be put close to the home, if you
No.
ask me. They just get too big.
Nope.
They're fine for a while, but once they get that big, you got to trim them like 3 times a year to keep them in check, and then they just get out of bounds on you. And then once you do decide to dig them up, they're too hard to dig because they got these massive roots and got massive stems. So that becomes a whole thing too. So if it were me, I would go ahead and remove them now while it's easy. Maybe you can reuse them. Hollies are great
absolutely,
against like
yeah.
a fence line or something to block your neighbors as a nice mid-sized screen. You can definitely reuse them in a good spot, but right up next to the home, not the way to go.
Well, and the homeowners can be as guilty of making the
Yes.
same mistake
Definitely.
because frequently corner plants, which are more upright growers, when people will buy one, say they buy a 5-gallon size emerald arborvitae, and they say, I'm going to put this on the corner, which would be okay.
Yeah.
But they plant it frequently in relation and to the scale that it currently is when they buy it without making allowances for the fact that this thing's going to get 12 feet tall. And
Yes.
so it's the distinct tendency to plant things too close. So you need to know what you're planting and also what its ultimate growth habit and make allowances for that. The hollies, like Austin was talking about, they get bigger, they get fatter. So you're going to have to do a lot more trimming, and you could simply transplant that a bit further out. When I say a bit, probably several feet further out, or perhaps better, go to a new location altogether. There's no need in throwing it away. It's probably a good plant.
Watch your property lines with the way that they're building homes these days as well, because you've got a corner of your house and you've got a corner of somebody else's house that.
Yeah, and you need to take that in consideration when you're selecting your plants on the front end, is to try to grow something, as we say in the industry, a more fastigate grower, something that's more upright and columnar.
Cuss all the time.
That's not cussing. It just means it describes it's more columnar in growth.
Well, I mean, but if
something
you-
that doesn't spread out so much, and it is a real issue. The closer that homes get built together, the more likely they are to.
Because if it's
run
if it's in dude's yard, he can cut off of what's in his yard.
Well, and that's not good for neighbor relations. There's a situation that I have heard of where that a neighbor cut off branches that were extending over the property line, which is completely legal to do.
Yes.
I mean, when it crosses into your airspace, you can cut that off. And so
Just
if you
ask
don't
my
want to be
neighbor.
mad at your next door neighbor because they're going to cut your limb off, think about how it's growing and what it may do ultimately. So,
Even if it's a Bradford pear tree.
well,
Ooh.
there's always that, Josh.
One in every neighborhood.
It's about 20 in every neighborhood.
Yeah.
Not as many as there used to be, thankfully, but they haven't gone away yet. So
Nope. Have a survey done too, because if say your neighbor were to have planted 3 Bradford pear trees along a property line, and then you have an accurate survey done, and they find out that 2 of them happen to fall
on
onto
yours.
not mine. I'm not saying it's mine.
Oh, but
Ooh.
you're just talking
Generally, hypothetically.
Yeah, without any specific mention or reference to
No.
whom that might be.
Might not be,
Yeah.
but you could legally take out 2 and laugh the whole time.
Well, there it is. Let's
Point
get to the next
fingers,
question
go,
now.
Ha 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 ha.
Suggestions for more unusual plants to use in foundation landscape. It gets all day sun.
All right.
Ooh.
Here we go.
Unusual.
What looks cool, Austin?
Well, I think so. We have a really, really good selection of conifers here, and we already talked about dwarf conifers. And I think an unusual kind of cool look is to space them out as individuals. So plan out your bed. I really think conifers look best with rock, as a rock type gravel or rock type mulch, if you will, and then spacing out these conifers to where you see them individually. You don't need a hedge or anything. You don't need anything real tight. Like putting them in their little specific spots to where you only can focus on them in the landscape. And then adding other things like a large boulder somewhere or some sort of, what do you think? A trellis or a windmill or something like that, just to add other interest. I think that looks cool in a landscape. It's definitely unusual because of the amount of unusual conifers that we have. So we could really kind of spotlight those. Also, speaking of spotlights, using lights, up lights, to make these things look cool at night, getting some different heights and some different shapes out there. But treating them all as individual plantings, I think looks really cool. So that's just what I got on top of my head.
Well, they're out at Isley Nursery in Boring, Oregon. This is the name of the town that they're in, Josh. I'm not making a character assessment of the town. The name is Boring, but they have some great planting areas outside their offices, which is precisely as Austin was just describing, where that they have plants that are separate. They're very gives you the ability to be able to see what these plants can do as they grow up, and you really get to fully appreciate the growth habit of all these various plants, and really see just how varied they are, and that you're not going to have plants that are all just a great deal of difference. So, and when you put them together in hedges or in groups, you lose a lot of that because they're growing over into each other. So that's another good way to do it.
Grasses too, Austin. And you didn't even mention, I think that probably as a foundation tree, wouldn't a Japanese maple be one of the most popular ones?
Oh, by far.
I mean, you got thousands of varieties of those now too.
And particularly at this time of year, like Sengokaku, which is the coral bark Japanese maple, is as the weather continues to get cold, those stems will get, crimson red. They're very, very brilliant. So they're an excellent look for any landscape.
Like this beautiful cedars in the corner. I mean, they're just absolutely fantastic as foundations.
Yes, and different colors, and and Japanese maples can be thrown with conifers very easily.
Absolutely, beautiful.
And there's a lot of dwarf maples out there too that are really stunning, and they have a lot of interest over the wintertime, even though they drop their foliage. Whereas you have conifers that'll stay up through the winter. A lot of the maples have a cool branching structure, a little bit different and interesting. So using those paired with conifers certainly is a good look as well. So.
And having the wide variance in the scale of yards and landscape areas that people are working with has a lot to do with what you would choose. Certainly, scaling things down by using a dwarf conifers and dwarf maples and that kind of thing are very much the proper approach when you have a very limited space to be able to plant things in.
Okay.
And naturals too, if you can find them, if you can work it in.
Naturals?
I mean, natives.
Oh, I was like, what is he talking about?
It's all natural.
It's all natural. All right.
Ooh,
Does
natural.
passion flower grow from existing stalks or from the ground? Should I cut what's left down? Oh,
Why don't you talk about this, Caroline? You got a massive passion flower.
I hate my passion flower, but I did make the mistake of putting passion flower right up against my house in my one of my perennial beds. But it will grow from the ground, so you can cut it back, but do know that it's going to send runners all over your bed, all over your yard. It's going to go into other beds.
Up the gutter,
into your windows if they're open. It's going to take over everything, kind of depending on the variety you have. I probably planted the most aggressive one that I could plant, and mine stays green throughout the winter.
So you need to be really passionate about it.
You need to be I'm passionate about my hatred for that plant now. So there's still passion there. It just changed to something else. But you can cut it all the way back. Some varieties will die back to the ground, and it will or should push back out from the ground in the spring. But know
you ain't getting rid of that.
You're not going to get rid of it ever. I have tried so hard. All right, we have another vine question. Best ways to train crossvine and native honeysuckle on an arbor.
Well,
I do have crossvine and I love it.
Yeah.
So that's a vine that I like.
How do you put it on a trellis?
I kind of just wove it onto my trellis, and then it eventually started kind of guiding itself and growing into all the things that I have it.
Yeah.
To grow on.
That's the biggest thing, is just getting it started. Both of those vines are going to take over a trellis. I mean, they'll, that in nature, that's what they do. They vine up and they attach themselves to stuff, or they'll, swirl around whatever. But they naturally do that. But whenever you buy one at the nursery and you set it out, at least just get it attached to it somehow. Don't let it flop on the ground or anything, or let it run somewhere else. Just get it up with loose bread ties or little, we sell a lot of different products here that you can tie up stuff with. Not hard at all. Honestly, most of the time, I just, I've got a bunch of clematis at the house, and I just kind of got it started by, like Caroline said, just kind of winding it through at first, getting it on it. And once it's on it, it's going to be fine. It's going to race right up.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. In a matter of one day, it'll send off the little tendrils. What are they called?
Tendrils.
Yeah.
I'm so smart. That's going to wrap around, and then it starts growing. So I never actually had to tie mine onto anything. I planted it, I think last fall, or maybe it was the spring, but it took off, and it's growing where I want it to grow to. And if it takes off one direction, I just bring it back in, and it stays pretty tame, unlike the passion flower.
Hey, speaking of taking off, if you're taking off today and getting out and about, why don't you head on out to Whites Creek Pike direction. Come see us at
What's
Bates
out there,
Nursery.
David Bates?
Well, right here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center, where we've been beautifying Nashville since 1932,
That's a
Josh.
long time.
My grandmother started our little endeavor here back at 26th in Charlotte in 1932, and for the last 90 years, we've been really bringing Middle Tennessee and Nashville area the most diverse selection of incredible plants and everything you need to keep them growing their very best, not the least of which is the expertise that we exhibit, hopefully here on the program on Saturday mornings. But if you want to come out and get some one-on-one time and bring some photographs with you, you'll actually get that drill down method where we'll look at specifically what's going on in your particular application and help you to get the right plants in the right place the first time, because that's the way we do it here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. Now, we'll remind you, we are now closed on Sundays, so you need to come out today.
Yep.
We're open from 9 until 4, Monday through Saturday right now. Closed on Sundays.
Makes sense.
And also remind you that we have our new covered shopping area all under cover. So you can go from the checkout
Bates
area
Hollow Mall.
all the way back into the greenhouse area,
Yep.
see everything we've got under those areas without ever having to step outside. So if you're a little chilly or maybe
Cool,
there's a
folks.
drizzling rain, you have the ability to be able to shop in relative comfort. So we appreciate you coming and checking that out. And I understand from reliable sources that there is a photo booth that has been set up that next week, in the next 2 weekends, actually, after this week, that there will be a visit from Santa Claus. You can have your picture made with your family.
The big guy?
The big guy's going to be here.
Wow.
So
Josh is so excited.
Now, he's not here today, but the next 2 Saturdays from 10 until 1, we hope to have Santa out here. Of course, you can come out and take pictures in our little booth area. Because maybe you don't want him in your picture, and you hate to say, "Hey, big guy, you mind getting out of the way?" Because we want to do a family
Boy, we're
show.
talking about the naughty list for some people in this
Well,
room.
it could happen. Some people have a hard time ever getting off the naughty list, so self-included on that one. So anyway, we appreciate you coming out to see us. We are conveniently located 1 mile north of Briley Parkway at exit 19 on Whites Creek Pike. And that's just minutes from Rivergate, Opry Mills, Nashville West, downtown Nashville. No matter where you're coming from, it is worth the drive from anywhere. Check out our website, batesnursery.com, where everything we sell is searchable, and you can purchase it right there online. You can even set up delivery if you can't manage to get out.
I talked to Santa Claus about that. Is he the one going to be delivering stuff?
He actually, Santa Claus, as it turns out, uses some third party.
Shippers?
He
Yeah,
does from time to time. So anyway, check us out online, batesnursery.com. Bates Nursery and Garden Center, beautifying Nashville since 1932. Thank you for giving us a moment to discuss that.
See.
And so come out and see us.
And see that photo booth. So it's kind of tucked away, which is good. You can take a lot of pictures and be comfortable in that spot. So if you come to check it out, you can always ask our friendly cashiers at checkout, and they will guide you to that photo booth.
I'm really proud of our photo.
I'm so proud of it.
We worked pretty hard on it.
It looks great.
There's a lot of different hands that were.
Did you
that
see
were
it,
on
Josh?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
You got to
It's
check
so
it out
cute.
before you go. It's got presents up on top. It's got it's got a fir or a spruce gnome.
Bridget made that
gnome?
one. A gnome.
Yes, very, very cool. So
Well, elves and dwarves don't get along, so Santa better leave everybody at home when he comes to visit. So it's just one of those things.
We'll
But-
make sure we let him know.
are the gnomes actually from Nome, Alaska? Is that where they come from? That's a different spelling, I know, but
Yeah, they could be.
I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know.
Anyway,
All right. We got a houseplant question.
Uh-oh.
who's going to answer that one, I wonder?
I don't know. Austin might want to answer this one.
All right.
Ideas for a houseplant for a basement with zero natural light.
Go buy you a fake plant. Don't come to Bates for that one. We grow living plants with lots of light. I'm sorry, but zero light is just not good. Unless you're going to get some grow lights down there, which you can certainly purchase and get that going and light it up. But honestly,
Shrooms.
I mean, the lowest light plants we sell, Sansevieria, ZZ plant, and Dracaenas, but even them even those are not going to be happy under that scenario.
Grow mushrooms.
They'll live for a little while, but they'll just get faded.
They'll be sad. They're not going to thrive. But like Austin said, there are grow light options. And plants that will do best with grow lights would be pothos. Philodendron can grow in a grow light pretty easily. Sansevieria. And you can get grow light bulbs that if they say, oh gosh, I think sunlight on the box, you can just, put it in your lamp, or wherever you have a light, that's going to supplement that natural light. Now, it's not going to be as good, but you do have that option of adding some grow light if you do want a live plant, because it's going to help filter your air. But like Austin said, there are some great options for fake plants out there, but I would rather have living plants.
Yeah, I mean, why do you want to put a plant in the dark basement? It just sounds rude.
Because it sounds sad in a dark basement. But I guess it's sad for the plant.
And the great thing about it is that due to the advancements in LED lighting over the last years, that you can grow plants in places that you simply could not have before, or have done so affordably. The amount of power required for an LED is, a fraction of what an incandescent light would be. Plus, you're able to dial in the specific, as you mentioned,
your red and green.
You can get the right spectrum you need to have on there. So,
plus the track lights look really cool too.
Yes.
So, they really do. But you can get 4 foot. You can get 4 foot fluorescent grow lights now too, I think.
Well, that's kind of always been
around.
Yeah, they've been around for a while, but the fluorescents are not as efficient as the LED.
Right.
So, but they do make. I think they make LED bulbs that you can stick in a fluorescent fixture.
Yes, they do.
So,
and we do have a great grow light webinar that Vanessa did a couple of years back.
Really?
For Bates Botanical.
That's the second time we've heard her
I know.
name.
Well, I saw her last week. So
you did.
Yeah, she came in.
She came in last Sunday, I believe. She was in for a little bit. She bought some cactus, which she named all of them Caroline. Yeah, so cute. But she did do a fantastic webinar on grow light. She talks about different spectrums, how to choose the right one, what plants do better, and
Now, was she amazed at the changes that we have made?
She was, yes. And she and I got a picture in the photo booth. So maybe next week, we will throw that up so you guys can see what it looks like. All right, let me.
Hey, hold on a second before we move on.
Okay.
Someone's going to get mad at me, but I got to do this.
Uh-oh.
We got to talk to the other person that's in the room today. Rachel is here. Rachel Chapman, who works in the office with us. She is married to our own Adam Chapman and has been forever.
She's a saint.
She is a saint, and she's doing a fantastic job.
She is running this thing like Tyler is just sitting over there, just normal. Rachel, what is up? What you got to say?
Not much.
I knew you didn't.
Thanks a lot, Austin.
I knew you didn't, but I had to throw you in there.
Okay, let me talk about. Let me give you an Austin moment. Yesterday, I'm coming in the side door near the end of business yesterday, and they've got the office lights turned down where Rachel and Mary in the office have decorated with Christmas lights. It's a very
looks great,
nice ambiance, but it's a lower light. So I crack the office door open, and I see immediately that the refrigerator, which is just beside of it, is also open. Of course, the light is bright coming out of there. And I look down, and there's Austin with a piece of pizza sticking in his mouth, looking up at me. If I'd had my camera out, we'd be putting that picture up right
Kodak
now.
Austin moment.
It was.
I said, of course, Mr. Bates would walk in at that moment.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
It's my afternoon snack.
Your
before
end of
my
the day
dinner.
snack.
Yep, gotta have it. Gets me home. But anyway, Rachel, glad you're in here.
Yes, and you're doing a fantastic job. Tyler,
Yes,
we miss
ma'am.
you, but Rachel is doing great.
Shout out Tyler. Tyler sent us a picture yesterday of a whole bunch of there you go, Rachel. Thanks for that. A whole bunch of where was he? He sent us a picture of a bunch of monarch butterflies.
He's in Florida. I feel like he's in Pensacola.
He said he
Could
was
be
going
wrong.
down to the Panhandle,
Down to the Panhandle.
So shout out TY.
the Riviera as we refer to it.
Yes.
Yeah. Tyler will be back Monday, so we'll see him
we
again
miss
next
you,
week.
Tyler. It's not the same without you. All right, here we go. My boxwoods are turning a yellow color. Is this normal?
Great question, and we get this question a lot. And yes, it is fairly normal. Now, boxwoods in the full sun, bronze or yellow up just a touch. more in the full sun over the winter times. This is natural. This is a natural with a lot of different plants. Arborvitae comes to mind. A lot of them bronze up over the winter. They get this kind of odd color over the winter, and the more sun you throw at a boxwood, the more that's going to be evident. If you have a boxwood in the heavy shade, they don't bronze near as bad. But great question. Yes, it happens every year. I've got boxwood on my home. They're starting their annual bronzing as we speak. So
yeah, and it's somewhat cultivar dependent.
It is.
Also,
It is.
The Asiatic types are decidedly more susceptible to, like winter gem boxwood, for instance. It gets a much more of a bronzy look to it than, say, just a regular American boxwood.
yeah, it does. You're right. But it is. It's natural. They all do it. So there you go.
So there it
I
is.
still love boxwood, though. I don't know why. I used to hate boxwood, and now as I've
Did
gotten
you?
older,
I did
love it.
not know that.
Yeah, when I was
All
younger,
I've known
I was,
is love from you for boxwood.
well, now it is like that. They're just so easy for the most part.
I love mine. I have 5, and they're named after our landscape guys because I got them for my birthday, and one died, and his name was Shannon.
Shannon's getting some shout outs today.
Shannon is getting some shout outs today.
And Shannon is the one who loves boxwoods more than everyone else.
I think he does too. Yeah,
Does
Shannon's-
he?
He sells a lot of boxwood. Well, we all know they're trying to. I mean, we like to sell stuff that's going to live, and we know that boxwood lives pretty well. You know, you might have one or two that goes or whatever, but hey, I mean boxwood's a good plant. You don't want to put it in a wet spot, and you want to make sure you plant them a little bit high. Okay, don't bury those lower stems at all. But if you do that, boxwood's going to live for a long time. I recently just cleaned up my front bed. I know I showed Caroline a picture yesterday of it. It was a very messy looking bed. I had wave petunias all through it, which I love, but they were getting to that point where they're ready to kick off. I had all sorts of leaves in the bed and everything. Went through there, pulled all the weeds. I had my kids help me pull out all the old stuff. I leaf blued the whole bed, and the boxwoods are just sitting up green, looking good right now. It's a nice, clean bed. Oh, speaking of, another thing. I'm trialing right now. There's a grower in Alabama, a really nice guy. And now I'm losing
Maple Valley.
Maple Valley, thank you.
You're welcome.
And he gave me an olive tree to trial. He said, "Here, you can just have this." He's a real nice guy, like I said. And I've had it in a pot, haven't planted it. Surprise, surprise. And it's sitting in the side yard, y'all. It has been like 21, 19, very low temperatures at my house. Olive tree, not affected.
Wow.
100% green, looking great and fine.
Are you going to plant it? It's my
I am going to
question.
plant it.
Are you going
I
to
don't
wait
know
until
when.
it gets freeze damage on the?
You know, I almost thought about trying to just keep it in a pot and see if it lives. It might lose some foliage, but it might live. It might not. Should I try it?
I think you need to put it in the garage in cold, really cold nights. I mean, you could do that.
Yeah.
I think it'd be successful with it.
Maybe I'll just plant it. He told me to trial
you
it.
should
I got
plant
it
it.
for free, so maybe I should just plant it.
Put it in the ground.
But, hey, what do you
You've been
think
on a
about that?
planting spree right now.
I have. I just planted a witch hazel the other day. Josh did that for you, buddy.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome.
Was it
You
the,
will enjoy it. Yeah.
What cultivar was it?
It wasn't. Straight species.
Oh.
Yeah. We had some cheap. I think they came from Maple Valley, too.
They did.
And
Yep.
it's just a little, $29.99, 3-gallon shrub, and Caroline bought it for me.
I did.
Wow.
As a thank
delivered
you
a
for
magnolia.
using your truck.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I did.
And I also bought myself one because I needed one too. So we each have one. I have not planted mine yet because I don't know where I'm going to put it. Okay, we've got just a handful of questions left
Okay.
before we finish out the show. What's the best way to protect outside plants and pots when the weather gets really cold?
Water.
Water. Certainly, you don't want to let them go dry. Right off the rip, use plants that are cold hardy. We don't want to have to use things that are touchy, and you have to move them in and out of the garage or whatever. So come talk to us. Let's get you some cold hardy plants where you don't have to do really anything
Yeah, and
besides keeping it moist.
generally speaking, if it's a broadleaf evergreen, that's any kind of a leafy type
Excuse
of
me.
plant, those are the things you really don't want to try to leave out all winter long. They're going to be a lot more susceptible to freeze damage. Conifers generally are much more resilient to the ravages of cold than are the conifers. So, but secondarily, keeping the soil completely saturated right before you have a severe cold and it's counterintuitive. People will go, well, no, won't it freeze? Well, yes, the water will freeze, but the freezing point of water is 32 degrees. The amount of, when you start getting damage on root system, is generally when it goes below 17 degrees. So what you're hoping to do is to slow down how quickly that soil changes temperature. and therefore you're in fact are insulating the plant by adding that water into the soil. That even though it does turn to ice, it's very much a good thing. And then
So it's R32.
And then as it begins to thaw out, the plant has that moisture available to be able to uptake and to recover from the cold spell. So,
Austin has a lot of plants in pots that you'll probably need to water to protect those roots.
Yep.
And I do too. Didn't mean to call you out on what you haven't planted.
oh no,
No.
far be it from her. She wouldn't do that.
Never.
Nah.
Never. I
By
actually
the way,
might
look
have more
at
than
that
you.
2-shot again of them. Look at those cyclamates and those poinsettias.
Cyclamate.
Cyclamate.
They're going to be
Cyclamen.
cyclamates from now on. That's how I'm going to be able to remember. That is stunning.
They're beautiful.
I mean, they're gorgeous.
Really nice. Great little gift.
There's I wonder if I can get it without knocking the pot over and breaking it. Let's see. So some have different leaf patterns. So this is the
Wow.
last one we have left of this type. But
a
it's
heart.
just so cool.
It's like a heart in the middle. Look at that.
So
like a
it's,
heart in the
it's
middle.
more than just the pretty flowers. It has a very interesting foliage. as
Yes,
well.
it does. It looks like Bruneria.
And you said it was a repeat bloomer also?
Oh, they free flower throughout the
Wow.
season pretty much. Yeah, give it enough light. And if you keep them moist enough and don't let them lay down on you.
If you let them lay down for too long. So just back to cyclamen real quick. They will kind of weep like peace lilies do when they need to be watered. As long as you get them watered pretty much immediately, as soon as you see that wilt happen, they'll be fine. But if you let them sit for like a day, once you water them, it just rots the plant immediately. So that's where that plant can be a little bit troublesome if you're, if you're not going to pay attention to that plant, if you have too many, if you let it sit dry for too long, the plant just rots right away, and they smell terrible when they rot.
Do you know where they're native to? I mean, is that a jungle plant or is it?
Probably Asia.
Okay.
Maybe.
I don't know, but probably Asia. Most things
I'm
are.
going to research that after
Okay.
the show. All right, we got 2 questions left.
Okay.
Get it?
Any tall grasses that may stay green in Tennessee over the winter?
No.
Fescue. That's
No.
pretty good.
I think they mean like ornamental.
Like ornamental grasses.
okay.
No, not anyone that stays green.
But
Pompous
they
stays
look
up
cool
for a
if you
while.
leave them up. I leave
do.
my Northwind up all winter,
Yep.
and it looks cool.
Who told you
No,
about Northland?
no. What you
Austin.
could do there are some athletic turf
Dyes.
paints that
Yeah.
you could. Once it turns brown, you could spray paint
paint
it
it.
all green, and then you're going to cut it off when spring comes anyway. So you could do that.
You remember back in the radio days, we actually had a guy who had a Bermuda lawn that he kept beautiful, and he would go through in the wintertime and he would dye it green.
Yeah,
Yeah, literally dye it green.
Wow.
That's hilarious.
That's somebody who just needs to do more stuff.
Yes.
because I would try to take a day or two off if I had the option.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, and our final question, we're back to living Christmas trees. When can I put a living Christmas tree in my house? So,
Well, like
I mean,
David
if
said
they
earlier.
buy them, they might want to move them in now, but you probably
It's
don't want to
risky.
do that.
No, like David said earlier, about 7 to 10 days is really about all you want. Or
And-
like
and-
we talked about, leave them outside on the porch.
And Austin,
That is the
along
best
in-
use.
Yeah, along your same lines, what makes everybody think that it has to be a blue spruce or a fir tree? Why don't we do something like a big, beautiful ficus and have a Christmas tree on it?
I mean,
everything, and there's beautiful cedars here. I mean, it'll be a little Charlie Brownish, but I mean,
Yeah.
why do you have to have that one monoculture type thing?
That's just what we've always done, I
Right.
guess. That's part of it. But I mean, take a chapter out of Caroline's textbook. She did a big cactus Christmas tree.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's what I normally do. I have a big euphorbia with lots of arms. It's probably 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
And I usually decorate that as my Christmas tree. But this year I did decide to buy something, mostly because I wanted another tree to have to plant in the ground. And I got a weeping cypress. Do you remember? No, I
Weeping
didn't.
Alaskan.
Weeping Alaskan. Yeah.
Cedar.
Cedar.
Not really
That's
a cedar, but
But it's cool. And it's
Yeah,
weeping.
super
It doesn't look like your standard Christmas tree. I'm going to decorate it today.
People
when I get
put
off
so
work.
much stuff on them anymore. You can't even really tell what kind of tree it is. So.
Well,
I'm just doing lights.
I think it's a great opportunity to kind of stretch the bounds just a bit and be able to
Push
try-
the barrier, push the
you know,
boundaries.
and also be able to make better use of your financial resources. You might say, I've got this spot where I'm really
Yep.
wanting this thing over there. We're going to use this for our living tree for a
10
week or
days.
so.
Yeah.
a week or two, maybe, if you can keep the conditions right. Again, turn the temperature down in the room, try to keep it closed off where it stays much cooler. Water with ice cubes put daily on top of the root ball.
The sonic ice cubes. Those are the really cool ones.
Yeah.
The prettiest Christmas tree in Middle Tennessee, as far as I'm concerned, is the one that's in the lobby at the Opryland Hotel. It's made out of poinsettias.
Those
just
are
go crazy with
expensive,
it. Yes, well, that's okay. Go for it. Right?
All right. Wait, we got it done.
Whoa.
Rachel, thank you for being here.
Rachel.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. Bravo, bravo,
we really
bravo.
appreciate it. Great job today. Thank you for it. And we appreciate everyone for tuning in.
Yep. And if you're up and off the couch now, because as we said earlier, it's time to get the Christmas tree done today on a non-living tree, because you got a couple of 3 weeks before you need to put that one out there.
And hey, grab a deciduous tree
Yes.
while you're at it. They're 25% off.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yes.
But you got to come today between 9 and 4. So, I mean, get out here to Bates Nursery. It's 3810 Whites Creek Pike. It's 0.9 miles north of Briley Parkway at exit 9. It's worth the drive from
Most people say it's a mile,
everywhere.
but yes.
0.9 if you're going to be specific about it. But you can make your choices for your trees. Come get some cyclamates and some poinsettias. I mean, that's
Cyclamates. Yeah.
cyclamates. Yeah.
That's what I'm going to call it from now on.
Just come in and ask. They'll know who to go see. All right, folks, we
Get
do
you a
appreciate
reindeer tree.
Reindeer, yes. Staghorn. Dirk.
See you next time.
All right, folks.
Back. I lost the mouse. Sorry.
There we go.